Hey, what's up, y'all? I just wanted to drop a little bit of knowledge for those. This could be a bit of a controversial video. You know, I'm talking about, like homosexuals, the LGBTQ, the suppression of them. Coming from my perspective of wisdom, I've learned through my research, in spite of my teachings from my history, my past, and the bullshit that the government and the media pushes and the religious agendas and all this sort of shit. All of them were trying to say negative things about homosexuals, right? So back in the day, homosexuality in general, just like everything else, is very political. So if you're part of the alphabet gang group, this video, I might say something, my words and terminology might be harsh, but remember, this is coming from a loving place. I'm obligated to be honest with you about what I've seen is red. I'm going to call it red. If it's black, I'm going to call it black. Straight up. No cap. So here's the thing. Back in the 50s, the U.S. had an agency called the APA. I think it was the American Psychiatric Association or some shit. Forgive me if I don't remember the acronym, what it stands for. But anyway, the APA, it was their job to determine and create a book called the DSM, which is where they get together with a group of people and they study behaviors, and then they label behavior patterns, and then they give it a word, and then they even try to look up medicine to try to fix it. Or, it's a bunch of political bullshit. People getting in groups and voting, social acceptance voting type shit. Is the time ready for us to be honest about this or not, basically, right? So in the early 50s, these punk motherfuckers, these faggot ass politicians, these APA dudes, they declare homosexuality, lesbian, all that other, the alphabet gang, they label them as a mental health problem, as if something's wrong with their mind. Like God made them somehow messed up to the point where they're a mental disorder. Maybe you should be in a psych ward. Maybe you should be taking some heavy medication. Something's wrong with you. Now, again, you got the time period, and you also have this Christian bullshit rhetoric. So like when I was growing up in the ATL, they were really hard on the homosexuals and shit. You know what I'm saying? Stomping them out, beating them. If they found out you were a homosexual in those redneck areas, you know what I'm saying? They would be beating the hell out of people just for being gay, And a part of me could hear the message coming from, the conservative Christian. God hates faggots. Remember, that was a term that came out back in the day. God hates faggots. And they were pushing that shit all throughout the South. And monkey see, monkey do is how a lot of black Christian niggas are. That was how most of the black people in the South were. Not to insult my Southern brothers and sisters, but a lot of niggas just take information for what it's worth and don't challenge it. Because in our genes, we're not, as a slave, we were discouraged from reading anything other than the Bible. So we weren't using Mercury to go out and research things. That's the energy that you need to research and double check shit, right? We weren't using that. We were using the Jupiter muscle, the muscle of belief. So if the white man is our God and our slave master, and he tells us God hates faggots, we're going to shun homosexuality, no matter if a person is born that way or not. You got that. And then on top of that, in the 50s, you have the APA, like I said, that established homosexuality as a mental health problem, which it wasn't. God created homosexuals since there's been humans on earth, right? And so let's get into this real quick, because I want to say 1975, if I'm not mistaken, was a year that the APA finally decided that, this isn't a mental health problem. And in San Francisco, they were having a growing homosexual population. A growing LGBTQ population was growing in San Francisco at the time. And there was a nigga with some balls. There was a white boy with some balls. I believe his name was Milk, Harvey Milk. He got assassinated, man. So what he did was he hired a couple of niggas to make the flag, right? So they made that flag. And that flag was like, hey, listen, we are finally triumphant as a group of people, and we can be one with the rest of Americans in the world and not be persecuted, not be beaten up, not being, stomped out just because, we're into same-sex things or same-sex ideas or whatever, or we're just behaving based upon the energies that God created us with, right? So it's fucked up. So this dude, Milk, Harvey Milk and shit, well, when he was taking his position, remember, like, the office and shit in which he was taking his position, he had his hierarchy. And, and I'm not an expert on the story. All I know is a motherfucker that was in a position of political power, you know what I'm saying? He had a police-issued weapon, and he was mad because he was losing control over that section of homosexuals. He was being pushed out, and he wasn't making enough. And then the guys who he was working with was going back and forth on their words. He shot and killed the dude Harvey Milk. And Harvey is kind of like what I would say is like the revolutionary in America for homosexuals. Like if you gay and you don't know Harvey Milk, you know what I'm saying? If you trans or you any of that type, lesbian, and you don't salute Harvey Milk for giving up his life, he laid his life down, for the growth for homosexuals and shit, the LGBTQ, to be respected in the hood, be respected all across the world, but starting in a safe area of San Francisco. That in 1997, when I first went to San Francisco, they had their own area district called the Castro District on Divisadero Avenue. I think it was called Divisadero Avenue. And, at certain times you ride the bus, it's going to be packed. And, the homosexual is just like anybody else. You don't want to be on those motherfucking trains, those muni buses, or any of those public trans, because San Francisco is a dense city. It's packed tight. You'll have some aggressive homosexual might pinch your ass cheeks and shit, and then you can't get to him because he's like 3-4 arms over, and it's nut to butt. You stuck on a damn muni and shit. I don't know from experience, but older niggas before I went to San Francisco, they told me what times and to stay the fuck away from Castro District unless I was a homosexual. And I'm not a homosexual, so I respected their wisdom, and I didn't even bother and fuck with that shit, right? So you got to know who Harvey Milk is, right? So let's get to the wisdom part. The wisdom part about, looking back on these dumbass pastors who just take the conservative or, this racist, masterful white man version of Christianity and then regurgitating it into the black community. Same thing was happening with Hispanics. Same thing was happening to everybody else. They were beating the shit out of homosexuals just for being born the way they are. And here's the thing. In astrology, I found out there are these things called nodes, right? And it's mathematical. So like, if the nodes on your natal chart at the time of your born, you got a circle up there, a whole 360 degrees at the time of your birth, the path that the sun is on, and all the planets are arranged in a certain alignment. And these nodes, which are based upon the moon, if they're in specific positions, in astrology, we call them angles, right? If they're in the 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th, right? Anytime the nodes are in those places, it indicates a person in their last life, right, who was the opposite sex. Or this is their first time incarnating as that gender. So think about it. If the nodes are in those places in anybody's charts, they're going to have a hard time identifying with the gender that they're born as. That's one thing. The other thing is you got masculine and feminine psyche. Some people get feminine psyche really strongly in there. Some men have a really strong feminine psyche and end up doing things that females do, but better, and they'll also be very musical. So you'll see a lot of guys who have a lot of musical ability. They'll be kind of looking like, man, is this nigga straight? Is he gay? Is he like Freddie Mercury, right? And then speaking of Mercury, in astrology, when a person's Mercury can be too strong, here's what happens when they spit game at the opposite sex. They get their needs met too easily because Mercury is a planet of communicating and getting your needs, your social needs met. So it's like you're talking and you're flirting and you're trying to make a game out of, talking to the lady you like. For me, and if I was a gay nigga, it'd be talking to the, the nigga that I like, whatever. But whatever. Mercury's a planet of the communication. And if a person's Mercury is too strong, a lot of times they'll find the game, that organic chemistry game between male and female or opposite sex, to not be worth it because it's too easy for them to get their needs met. And they find it harder, right, to get their needs met with the same sex. And as a result, they're sexually turned on by the same sex. I got nothing but data on this, all types of research. Mercury rules that shit. Remember the singer, Freddie Mercury, gay as hell. He had a strong ass Mercury. The nigga Harvey Milk who got smoked, right? Y'all need to know this. He had a strong ass Mercury. And then all my friends and shit who had their nodes on angles, all of them, they're either mama's boys, dudes that don't know how to be men, women who don't know how to be women. They'll be more masculine. Sometimes women will have a more masculine psyche. But then what happens is, see, God made them this way. This is metaphysics. When they go to the doctor doesn't understand metaphysics. He understands the DSM-1 that was written and controlled by a group of people who hated homosexuals, hated blacks. It's straight up bullshit. So they're going to that DSM book, and then they're looking up to try to find what behavior pattern matches the book, and then label you as something, right? And then so they can try to, the next thing is they want to prescribe you some fucking medication or call you crazy or some shit. Shit you don't even need. God made you perfect the way you are. You know what I'm saying? So you deal with a lot of that. So this video, all I'm saying is homosexuals, they have every right to be here. And there's a such thing. See, I believe in reincarnation, right? Which means an archon or a deity that God creates is watching my actions on earth so that in my next life, he knows exactly what city I'm going to be born into, which bloodline I'm going to be born into, which sexual orientation I'm going to have, and all that, right? And when I've been in Asia, they have a term called kathoe, right? Kathoe. And that's the term for the transgender or whatever. Anyway, the concept behind that is a person who's born with transgender, homosexual, or whatever tendencies, they're born with a deep sexual frustration because a lot of times in the last life, they don't know it in this life, but their last life, they made mistakes in their relationships sexually, or maybe they were abusive to their lover, or maybe they just, too much of a ladies' man, too much of a whore, whatever the case might be. They did something sexually inappropriate based upon that archon, and that archon makes sure he reincarnates that consciousness, who's going to be born a homosexual, into a country that it's safe for them to live. That's because that's God's power. God is creating homosexuals this way. Stop listening to these religious assholes who are making bullshit up as it goes along. They don't keep it real with you like I do. You know what I'm saying? So, you guys want to challenge that, step on that. Y'all know some people who are homosexuals. This is a lot of value, and it can add a lot of psychological strength to their confidence in knowing, hey, listen, I have access to Jesus, if you believe in that. I got access to God, you know what I'm saying, if you believe in that. You might be atheist, you might not believe in anything, but I'm not. I believe in the creator of this universe. I don't believe in the God in the Bible. I think the God in the Bible is a bunch of bullshit. I believe Jesus is a bunch of bullshit. I think that was created by some intelligent white men, right? But I still know they have power. Still has a lot of power. It's just I don't believe in it. I believe in the higher power who created this universe. And the mathematics that this higher power has shown me has proven to me that homosexuals and the LGBTQs, they've been being created since the incessance of time. And every person I've ever met that ever had a node on one of those angles, they have definitely had an issue with their sexuality and the gender that they were born as, straight up. And that's all the love that I really got to share in this 14-minute video. So, love you. Peace.